Hey everyone, thanks for clicking on this video today. If you live in BC or in Canada at all, you might have heard about something going on in the news. I live in British Columbia, and it was almost 2 weeks ago now, we saw these big protests by what is called the Khalistani movement, and they were protesting outside a Hindu temple. The temple was Lakshmi Narayan, and this was in Surrey. And I think what they were protesting was some Indian people from the consulate were attending that temple. So there was a protest about it. And you might have seen people swinging swords in the street, which I'll show you a little bit later. And I didn't pay attention to this story, and I started to sort of learn a little bit more about it. Here's a little refresher of what happened that day.
This video taken on Sunday outside the Lakshmi Narayan Mandir shows police arresting a man. Khalistan supporters across the street had been protesting against Indian consular officials attending the Hindu temple. 3 people were arrested.
Violence broke out, which resulted in 3 individuals being arrested. Now, what I can tell you is that thankfully no one was injured during this incident.
No charges have been laid as an investigation continues. A Mandir official confirms they are members of its congregation. He claims police were heavy-handed with them.
We feel police here indirectly supported those Khalistani group.
Parshottam Goel, who had been at the Mandir throughout Sunday, says people were worshipping and seniors were attending a consular camp to get important paperwork completed by Indian officials.
There is no civility, and under the guise of freedom of expression, whatever they come and set up things, and law enforcement agencies cooperate, not only cooperate, they bend backward to accommodate them.
Members of the Guru Nanak Sikh Gurdwara in Surrey say they have been regularly holding peaceful protests in different locations after the murder of the Gurdwara's president, Hardeep Singh Nijjar.
A little bit about Hardeep Singh Nijjar. He's a Canadian Sikh involved with the Khalistan movement, according to Wikipedia, though I take everything with a grain of salt that I get from Google nowadays. Born in India, he migrated to Canada in the 90s. The Indian government has accused him of being a criminal and a terrorist affiliated with the militant Khalistan Tiger Force. Nijjar gained prominence in 2019 when he became the leader of the Guru Nanak Sikh Gurdwara in Surrey, BC. He was an advocate, it says here, of Sikh separatism. Nijjar was also associated with Sikhs for Justice and spearheaded the group's Khalistan Referendum 2020 campaign. On June 18, 2023, Nijjar was shot and killed in the parking lot of the Gurdwara in BC. I found this article. Maybe this article has truth, or maybe it doesn't, but I'll read a little bit of it to you. It says here, white people go back to England and Europe after Hindus, Khalistanis target Native Canadians' claim of ownership of Canada. Anyway, after asking Canadian Hindus to go back to India, the Khalistanis in Canada have now asked the Native Canadians to go back to Europe and England, as can be seen in a viral video. Labeling the white people as invaders, a Khalistani can be heard urging them to return to England and Europe. And this was during a Nagar Kirtan procession with Khalistani flags in Surrey, BC. I've also heard that guy was a social media influencer and he had nothing to do with the rest of the people at the protest. I think no matter who you are, this is probably not a great thing to be saying. And me being a Canadian Hindu, I'm going to bring in a guest. And maybe he can help me break this down and understand sort of what's going on. His name is Jagmeet Singh, and he's with the Khalsa Aviators. Hello. Hi.
Oh,
How are you?
I'm good.
Okay, thanks for joining me on this
Thanks for
miserable
having me.
Saturday. But I'm going to ask you, you're a Sikh Canadian. What do you make of what they're doing? First of all, what is behind this protest? Do you think the Khalistanis are wrong or right, or what is the case they're making?
Sure. First of all, I want to give a little bit of intro to myself. During the COVID mandates, there was a Sikh Freedom Alliance, and me and a number of others joined together. So we wanted to have a Sikh representation in against the fight against the mandates. So at that time, we did the fight against COVID mandates as a Sikh Freedom Alliance, and then also against Soji later on. And so the whole thing about Khalistan movement is, I can, as in brief as possible,
Yeah.
before the British invaded India and Punjab, Sikhs had their own empire in the north of the northern part of the subcontinent of India and the Punjab region mostly. It did spread quite far into Pakistan and till Tibet. But when the British Empire came and eventually it was invaded and taken over by the British, so Punjab was a separate entity, separate empire before then. But after they left and they joined all of the north and south together as a
Mm-hmm.
country called India.
Mm-hmm.
So that was so this fight is about having to go back pre-British because at
Oh.
that time the British kind of agreed that Sikhs would have their state back, but then some of the leaders were either misguided or falsely like there's like sort of agreement that we're gonna run this together because during the partition it was mostly of Punjab, the region that Sikhs had before. So it was divided into Pakistan and India, and it was and over 1 million people were killed during that partition because there was some hate and some misinformation and disinformation spread that there's killings happening on both sides. So
Mm.
there's a big genocide at that point. There was mass killings, and a lot of the freedom fighters actually were in Canada when they got back. If you have heard about the Komagatar Maru ship, that
Mm-hmm.
was all part of that Gadarite movement to free
Mm-hmm.
independent Punjab and India. So now
Yes, that was
moving
the ship
forward,
that many Indian migrants came on and they perished on the ship.
yeah, yeah, and then Sikhs
It,
were not welcomed in Canada initially. There
yeah.
was some racism going on. So there's
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot of history behind it. But
Yeah.
Sikhs integrated into the Canadian society very well, helping in disasters and putting langars and supplies. And gurdwaras are open for every Canadian to come when they need it.
Yeah.
So the movement in of Khalistan got really to its peak during 19 after 1984
Mm.
because 1984 was a very turmoil. So there have been a mistreatment to Punjab from India, like the state
Mm-hmm.
that the British left to Delhi to
Mm-hmm.
control the other state, Punjab.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened was there was like water issues, there's religious persecution. There's many other issues on discrimination based on language, and there's a lot of things. And
Yeah.
the relationship mostly between Sikhs and Hindus and Muslim at a citizen level, at an ordinary people to people level was always very harmonious. It is always the government that played divide and conquer tactics to gain their political agenda behind it. And that's what I'm seeing. It's happening to that level again.
The Khalistani movement, I thought, is an independent movement seeking to create a separate homeland for Sikhs.
Okay.
Is that right? But basically, given all the history and all of what's happened, I think that the Khalistani movement, I suppose they want to create their own separate homeland. But would you say that, a homeland for Sikhs, like just establish a state of Khalistan, right? Is that, uh, what do you think about, is that correct, what they're doing? And what do you think about what they're doing here in Surrey and some of the things we've been hearing that they're chanting? I mean, does that bother you?
Well, just to clarify a little bit, yeah, Sikhs do want a homeland independent, but it never was alone for Sikhs. Well, actually, even pre-British era, Sikhs were not a majority in their own state. In the state of
Wow.
Punjab, they were not majority. So there were Muslims, there were Hindus, all were living harmoniously together. So it
Okay.
is creation of Punjab, but not solely for Sikhs.
Okay. Okay. And what do you make of what was going on outside that Lakshmi Narayan temple?
Yeah. So from what I understand, between November 1 and November 3, November 3rd was the 40th anniversary of the genocide. 40 years ago, a genocide took place, killing hundreds of thousands of Sikhs within a 3 day period in India. So it was a very traumatizing period for Sikhs. And the news of the killing of Pai Niger was that the Indian state have killed him on Canadian soil, killing a Canadian citizen, and coming together on those 40th anniversary of the genocide, the Indian consulate was holding let's say, services to people in that mandir, and not just mandir. Actually, they were doing it at a Sikh gurdwara as well on Rock Street. So Sikhs were protesting both at the Gurdwara, the Sikh Gurdwara in Ross Street in Vancouver, and the Mandir, but they were not protesting against Hindus. They were protesting against the Indian government going to a religious place, being accused of killing a Sikh, and then trying to make it that everything's okay. And it was already in the news, and everything was already very heated. So they picked those dates, and I believe the Sikhs got a permit to protest, but there was a certain distance they have to keep. I believe for the Sikh Gurdwara in Ross Street was about 60 meters or something, and so was in Brampton. So the same consulate services giving visas and I believe some certificates, and Sikhs were protesting there too. Those consulate services could be provided outside of religious places, but they picked
Oh,
those
I see.
religious
I
places.
see.
Niger was a Sikh leader in Gurdwara of Guru Nanak Sikh Gurdwara in Surrey Delta. The main, well, it's a historic Gurdwara, main Gurdwara, and he was assassinated, I believe last year, yeah, in June, right inside of the Gurdwara. He was shot around 50 times, right inside the Sikh Gurdwara. And later, the police came and find out it was the Indian government that was hired these people, and there was evidence recently that they expelled 6 of the Indian diplomats from Canada. And the diplomats were going back into those religious places to make everything seem like nothing has happened. So they were protesting there. But from what I saw in the videos, mostly it was peaceful in the beginning. And there were some people inside Mandir that came out to counter protest. But at the same time, there was also videos of some of the leaders from the Mandir were instigating some of the violence too. Like, let's throw something at them, maybe we'll got hit back. There's a video leaked. So whether protesting at a religious place is good, there's a good debate on both sides that maybe it's not the right thing to do, but at the same time, it's also not right for the consulate to use these religious places for their political gains.
There's also rumors, or not rumors. I mean, it's been reported by this big news agency in India. I think they're called CNN News 18. They have said that people from the Khalistan movement make donations to Jagmeet Singh's NDP campaigns and leadership. They make donations to him, and because he's in line with Trudeau, effectively, they're funding. The Canadian government is being funded by some people in the Khalistan movement, namely one of which is also a terror or wanted on murder charges back in India.
Minister Justin Trudeau spewed venom against Bharat and also the RSS. Jagmeet Singh's statement said, "We are calling on the government of Canada yet again to put diplomatic sanctions against Bharat in place, ban the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh network in Canada." So is he the one who's going to call the shots? I guess listening patiently to the entire backgrounder and explainer, we had to put it out there, ladies and gentlemen. We'll also put out a flowchart of who these leaders are, who in Canadian polity, all of them connected to Khalistanis, all of them connected to wanted entities in Bharat. That's the flowchart, and we'll go full frame in that.
But he's a politician, so he helps Trudeau, which impacts Canadian society as well, like mandates and increasing prices. But on the other hand, Polyev is also known for being funded by the Indian government. So his elections, like for his race for his leadership, is openly accused that he was funded by India. So none of these politicians are clean, to be honestly.
Yeah.
Trudeau have been linked to funding from China, the Communist Party.
Yeah.
Polyev have been linked to being funded by India, and then same with Bernier, who recently was at a like. So there's a lot of linkage between. None of these politicians are clean.
That's right. Good point. Let's have a little look at just some video of the sword fighting.
The flag, which is a symbol also associated with the separatist Khalistan.
I
Very
mean,
police force
isn't
also.
that a traditional sword fight? Or, I didn't. People took issue with that. Well, what did you make of the sword fighting?
Yeah, like there's two parts that I saw on the video. On the right side, it's the police officers that were practicing what's called gatka. Well, yeah, the video on the right side is a wooden stick. It's not even sword. It's a wooden stick. It's called gatka. And I think RCMP officer was doing it last year, and the RCMP actually posted the video from their Twitter site.
Mm. Maybe maybe we could just end with your thoughts on what you'd like. What messaging do you have surrounding this? We don't want obviously more racism.
I mean, actually, we are all part from this planet Earth. I mean, nobody should be told to go. Nobody on this planet Earth should be told to go back to where they come from, whether it's for immigrants or whether it is for people that have been living here for a long time, or whether it be indigenous people telling, nobody should be told to go where they are because people make their choices. We should all be, because Canada, nobody should be telling anyone to go back to where they come from, because everybody did their part to come. And yeah, there are always bad apples in every community. Like every community has some bad apples. So we can, as the people, should be actually uniting together, not be divided and conquered. Because governments, not all governments, are always in favor, care about their citizens or their people. Governments, there's an elitist, globalist agenda behind a lot of these staged events, and there's a lot like people have seen through COVID and COVID.
Thank you so much to Kanwaljit Singh for his analysis and his perspective. I learned a lot in this video. This topic might not be on everybody's radar. Everybody gets so busy with their own lives that sometimes we just don't pay attention to all that's going on. If you like this video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel or turn on your post notifications if you've already subscribe so you don't miss another video from me. I will do more on this week. We will catch you next time. Thank you so much for watching.